Hey guys, so as writers online, we sometimes have trouble starting new things. And I wanted to talk about starting a Substack because we're so ingrained to think that owning our own creativity means having our own WordPress. And then we realize that just means we're a prisoner to Google's algorithm and its search monopoly. We think writing on Medium means we've become a writer, and there again, we're trapped in Medium's algorithmic prison. Or we think maybe writing online is making posts on LinkedIn, where LinkedIn is just an advertising network and a job searching platform with its own algorithmic commercialization of your data and your creativity. So, where can we go to actually be creative, to write, to build, and to prosper? And I'm starting to think that Substack. So, how easy is it to start a Substack? It doesn't cost anything. They do the hosting. There's no monthly fee that you have to sign up for. The bar to entry is actually pretty easy. So you navigate to Substack's homepage, you click on Start Writing, you write your name, your publication name, you write a brief description, your publication URL. You can customize all these things later. And you just kind of start writing. And it's not like there's any pressure. It's a weekly newsletter. And from that weekly newsletter, you can build basically all of these things. You can build a podcast, you can build a community, you can chat with your readers on their app, you can do voiceovers, you can build other things like groups and real life events and all sorts of communities, maybe external to Substack, maybe on Discord or on Slack or a Facebook group or wherever you want to host a dedicated community, like the new app called Geneva, which is really amazing. So starting a Substack is actually not the problem. The problem is what keeps you going? What keeps you writing on a place where everything is new, right? Maybe you're not used to the feeling of writing on a newsletter. Maybe you think it's just a newsletter. No, it's not. It's actually a community of writers, right? So there's all these peers in your category. So when you go to your settings in Substack, they ask you to choose two categories. And these categories are pretty broad, but also specific enough for you to identify with, right? And based upon your choices of these two, try and look on Substack and find other writers like you and reach out to them. Talk to them on Twitter or LinkedIn or wherever else you might see them. You might even see them on TikTok or YouTube. The point being, what will keep you engaged in your new Substack is the community and the monetization you find right at the beginning. So we all know monetization is a longer game. You have to think in terms of years for true monetization to take place, unless you're like this brilliant writer with an existing following. So it's really going to be the community and your reaction of your audience that's going to keep you writing there from month 1 to maybe month 6. We will all have different journeys on how many readers we get and KPIs like that you shouldn't really be thinking too much about. You should be thinking about your own journey and the kind of self-expression and creativity and the kind of content and experience you want to share with others. What do you want to bring to the world through your writing, right? Maybe you're a comic book illustrator, maybe you're a poet, maybe you're a videographer, maybe you make documentaries, maybe you're interested in activism or a cause of some kind, maybe you're pioneering local journalism in the rural location where you live, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, right? It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are doing what you love and you're engaged, you're following your own bliss, and you're building with that motivation and that spirit. And when you find the community on Substack and of your peers, they begin to recommend you. You begin to recommend their newsletter. You begin to do writer referrals, attract others to Substack. And all of this actually builds how people will be discovering you in the future. So doing that and following the topic that you really like, maybe it's a niche of a niche, or maybe it's a more general topic, or maybe it's a niche of a niche of a niche, whereupon you're writing at the intersection of two incredible things, or you're writing for an audience that's really specific. Maybe you're going to find your 1,000 true fans, and it's going to be a long journey. Maybe it's going to take you 18 months or 36 months. And that shouldn't matter too much, right? You're doing this for the creativity, you're doing this for the journey, you're doing this for the learning and the education. And the writer is educated by the reader, right? Maybe some of those people that are following you are going to hit reply on your email. Maybe you say, please hit reply. You say that in your welcome message, you say that in your about page, and it's interactive, right? It's not just like you're writing in a little corner of the internet at the mercy of all these algorithms. Maybe you want a more communal experience. Maybe you've realized social media is completely toxic and fake and cringe, and you just don't want to be a part of it. Maybe you want to make a private Substack that's only for people you really trust. Maybe you want to create a community that has nothing to do with writing, which is more about a cause that you believe in, right? So your newsletter is just a symbol of something that you're interested in, right? It could be a hobby, it could be your profession, it could be part of your experience. Maybe you're traveling the world and you want to share that with others, talk about different countries and your experiences. I mean, the range of newsletters that I've seen is basically as diverse and inclusive as there are people on the planet, right? No two people are going to be writing alike. You're going to be pretty unique. And you are going to even be trending in Google. Because if you're writing in a niche of a niche, chances are there's not too many newsletters like you out there. So think about that. Think about what will keep you engaged in your first month, your first 3 months, your first 6 months. And I highly recommend looking for community. So even on Substack, their own publications, their own community features, their own Twitter account, it connects you with this oasis of people who are doing the same things, right? These crafters and builders and artists and writers and poets and fiction writers and all kinds of writers, no matter what industry, no matter what background, no matter what part of the planet they are from. And if you're in a country that doesn't accept Stripe, find a buddy in the world, find a friend in another country who can help you set it up and send the funds without taking any commission, because that's not what this is about, right? This is about a celebration of our creativity and a new kind of community. And maybe writing isn't even the medium that you end up loving. Maybe you find out that you love making videos or you love interviewing people in podcasts. So the writing is just the beginning, and the newsletter, it's just the hub. It's just part of your landing page. But the ability to build other features and other community and other movements, basically, that are more social and proactive, that's the beauty of starting a Substack. And because it doesn't charge you anything at the beginning, it's only when you want to do paid subscriptions that you're paying 16% of your revenue to the company and their financial provider, which is Stripe. And Stripe is an incredible company. They're going to do soon more private funding so they can avoid being a public company, because they realize that works for them. And Substack also, it's a very innovative little startup, and their community features and how they're building their product is really intentional for diverse sets of writers. So they're not just interested in profiteering off their most profitable kind of writers, right? Although the political writers do make the bulk of revenue probably for Substack, they're taking great effort in doing their due diligence for the cultural writers. And this is kind of where my heart is, even though I don't write in the cultural domain. Those cultural writers, they are really on their individual journey, and you see that, right? I met a comedian who has a newsletter. I've met an illustrator who has a newsletter and has a TikTok and shares his work in public, shares his his drawings and doodles in cities and different parts of the world. So the cultural writers is, for me, really what it's all about. And if you love your craft or you love your art form or you love your topic, it doesn't even matter. Obviously, Substack is enabling you to build a business around it. You could eventually have merch. You could eventually have digital products. There's going to be NFTs that you're going to be able to tether. There's going to be all sorts of weird things and different ways to diversify your revenue. So if you want to be a solo entrepreneur, your own boss, a remote worker, a digital nomad, that's all possible. And so Substack opens up that door and it makes it really easy, right? Because you're literally just in a few clicks, your Substack is started. And then you can go back into the settings and fiddle around, customize it. Oh, maybe you want the links to be green when you have a hyperlink, right? Or maybe you want to create voiceovers. Every time you share your newsletter, at the top, there's a voiceover. Maybe you want to have a paid subscription page break. So 70% down, the last 30% are just for your bonus content for your premium subscribers. And you would be surprised, guys. People will support you. People will pledge in advance, say, I'm willing to support you if you ever do go paid, if you ever do offer a paid subscription. So in this sense, starting a Substack is one of the easiest no-brainer things you can do if you're on a journey of self-discovery in this solo entrepreneur movement, in this diversified revenue movement, or you just love writing, right? That's why most of us are doing this. We just feel we gravitate towards the written word, we gravitate towards self-expression, we gravitate towards doing our craft. Well, we would be doing it already, but there's a place to go, a place to do it, and people can crowdfund and get actual revenue from doing what we already love to do. That is in itself a huge thing. So I become an advocate of Substack for all of these reasons, right? There's writers and artists and craftsmen and builders and activists and political analysts and journalists and all sorts of people, book authors among those, fiction writers among those. The writers of the writers, this enables them to make a living, to pay the rent, maybe to pay their food. Every little bit counts. And this is part of our growth as human beings. This is the creative journey that we're on. And this is the digital transformation of the creator economy. And it's really just nascent, right? It's hard to find a place where you can feel like you own your own content and own your own freedom to be creative. And Substack, to me, that's what it's offering all of us. And listen, you could be any kind of a writer in any kind of a niche, and you could be building for the first 1, 3, 6 months and be like, what am I doing here? And you stick it out until year 1, year 2, year 3, and then you're thanking the universe that you're still doing this, because you might not have persevered. You might not have waited until things looked a little bit brighter. So the way the discovery flow is set up, it takes a while to convert and compound. You need to build those connections, those peer relationships, and you need to be generous, right? You need to recommend other newsletters like you and not fear them as some kind of hypothetical competitor that's going to steal attention from you. That's not what this is about. There's no overseeing algorithm waiting to snap up your value for commercial advertising profit, right? So we're just people building in public. That's all that we're doing here. We're just people finding our 1,000 true fans and learning about new ways to diversify our artistic expression and our business revenue, right? Because artists and crafters and builders and activists, we need to eat. So Substack to me is the easiest way to start in the creator economy because it requires a rather low investment. If I'm only writing once every week or once every 2 weeks, that's like a few hours on a Sunday. Like, I think I can handle that. I think I can share my poems or share my article or share the part of the news that I found so interesting, or participate in this movement, in this political thing that's happening, or this thing that's happening in the world. Maybe I'm just reacting to what's going on around me. Maybe I'm talking about a certain revolution in my country or a certain meltdown of the economy or whatever the case may be. I might be just expressing myself as an individual, but there's people out there that are going to read me, that maybe they're going to find me on Twitter or LinkedIn or TikTok or YouTube. That's incredible. And it's all interconnected. So starting a Substack, you just navigate to Substack's homepage and click on Start Writing.